course of now many, many, many decades. And the issue of race, the issue of class, the issue of language is ever so present in the business constellation of who gets what they get and who doesn't get it. How alive is that issue as it relates to investment? How alive are the issues of race as it relates to opportunities? Most of the people here, as they raise their hand and think about themselves going forward in their careers, really have to go climb a mountain. How realistic is it to assume that those issues of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s are still very much alive and may in fact stop most people from getting to the top of that mountain?
Okay, so that is a very good and complicated question, and I'm gonna try and give you the fullest answer I can because I think it's really important. So one, like, let me just be clear, like, racism is real, like, it exists. It exists like every day in every walk of life and everything that goes on. Like, people look at you and they make a judgment. Like, there's no question that's happening. But then, like, that doesn't define anything. Like, if you let that define you, you've lost. Like, that's and there's no need now, you know, particularly to let that be a defining moment in any way, shape, or form. And there's actually a phenomenal book written by my friend, the Commissioner Steve Stout, called Tanning of America, and he's got a VH1 series, but the book is more important, I think, than the VH1 series. In that he really talks about a cultural philosophy which I would describe as kind of offense versus defense. And I think that for your generation, you need to think about race as from an offensive perspective, and that's the way Steve thinks about it. So if you look at his career, and what he said particularly was, look, we invented this music that when it's so powerful that when Run DMC said "My Adidas," that Adidas sales went way up. And he's like, okay, that's something. And he started paying attention to that. And as soon as he got into a position, he kind of rose through the music industry. He managed Nas, he discovered Nas, he managed Jay-Z. He was kind of, you know, that guy. And he rose to kind of run urban music, and he ran Interscope Records, actually. And then he said, but there's something bigger here. I'm going to create an advertising agency that takes the cultural leadership from my community and translates that into money for the cultural leaders and translates that into money for me. And I'm going to call it translation. And he started off, in his very first deal was with Wrigley's Chewing Gum. And he goes to Wrigley's Chewing Gum and he says, look, and they were dying because everybody was moving from chewing gum to these, you know, these little Listerine strips and all that kind of stuff. And so they were completely losing the youth. And they were like, what do? We don't know what to do. And Paul Chai was the head of marketing there. And Steve goes, Paul, here's what I think we should do. I've got this kid. And do you just give me enough money for a video and a song? And he will rap, or he'll sing about Double Mint. He'll sing the Double Mint jingle in his song. And the guy was Chris Brown. And the song was #1 for 52 weeks in a row. And Paul got this giant promotion, and then he got a job running marketing for Anheuser-Busch. And then if you've seen like the Made in America campaign, that was Steve's. The McDonald's I'm Loving It campaign was Steve's. Like, he's putting basically hip-hop and the culture that he comes from into the world because it is the most influential culture. And when you talk to Steve, he's like, look, there's nothing to apologize for here. Look at the culture in the U.S. Who invented it? Who invented jazz? Who invented rock and roll? Who invented hip-hop? Who invented all of the fashion that's out here today? We have tremendous strength. Tremendous strength. Like, coming from, you know, one of the most important kind of races there is. So if you want to be racist, be all the racist. You know, like, give us the credit too. Let's go take credit. Let's not worry about defending against what you don't like. Let's take credit for what you do like, and let's go build a business off that. And I think that's a really profound change. in mindset and thinking, and I think it's really important now, and let me tell you why it's important in my industry. Because in technology, when I came up in technology, there were no consumer technology companies. Technology products were built for businesses and first for government. So the first computer, there was one computer that was sold to the US government. And then Thomas Watson, who was the founder of IBM, said, I don't think there will ever be more than 5 computers in the world. Like, that's the total market. And it kind of just went like that. It's funny now, but like they were big. They filled the room. They were like refrigerators. And over the years, like, that didn't change. And even the original Apple was mainly used for like hobbyists and then businesses and so forth. But lately, in the last, since the internet, really, since the internet became the consumer internet somewhere around 2005, technology companies have been consumer companies. And the thing about consumer companies is they have to kind of market into the culture. And so, who better to start, lead, be part of that than people from the race who started the culture, who are most